the first time this year on the eve of shifting to the lowest alert level in Metro Manila and 38 other areas. And Netflix hit series Squid Game bags major trophies at this year's Screen Actors Guild Awards. Who else won? The list later on in the show. An unprecedented political showdown meant to help the voters. CNN Philippines mounted back-to-back debates for candidates seeking the two highest positions in the country. On Saturday, 7 out of 9 vice presidential bets faced off at the University of Santo Tomas in Manila. Walden Bello caused a commotion in the debate, putting him to the top trending Twitter topics that day. Podiums for Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte and Deputy Speaker Lito Atienza were left empty. An almost complete attendance from presidential candidates the next day. 9 out of 10 candidates stood side by side on one stage for more than 3 hours to talk about corruption, the pandemic, the economy, and other pressing issues. The highly anticipated debate also trended online with hundreds of thousands of tweets. Well, candidates had a chance to talk about how important a debate is for someone applying for president. Our Chrissy Di Matulak has that and other debate highlights.
For the first time since the campaign period began, presidential candidates, all but one, finally came face-to-face to answer the country's most pressing issues. 9 candidates were present during Sunday's debate. But why are debates important? According to the candidates, debates serve as their job applications to the public.
Number one ingredient din ng leadership, aside from character, is you show up in the most difficult times. Pag hindi ka mag-show up in the most difficult times, hindi ka leader.
Gusto mo naman ba mag-hire ng isang empleyado na hindi mo nakausap, hindi mo nakita, hindi mo nalaman kung anong karanasan, anong magagawa para sa iyong kumpanya?
Former Senator Bongbong Marcos was unable to attend due to prior commitments. Despite this, his podium was still left on stage. On other issues, Manila Mayor Isko Moreno expounded on the unreturned 50 million pesos campaign funds for his 2016 senatorial bid. He even showed a copy of receipt from the BIR.
Hindi ako nagsoli ng binigay sa akin tulong sa kampanya na sobra, ngunit dinupad ko ang ating tungkulin bilang mamamayan na magbayad ng buwis. That's why wala akong moral ascendancy to answer the question in favor.
Most candidates favor endorsements from religious groups, but former Defense Secretary Norberto Gonzales clarified that these endorsements should come from groups only and not the whole church. Muslim candidate Faisal Mangondato is in favor of this as long as people can still freely choose their own bets. While former presidential spokesperson Ernesto Abella did not raise his hand on the issue. Candidates meantime were on the same page in fighting corruption.
On my first day in office, I will sign a waiver of my rights under the Bank Secrecy Act that will set the tone of my presidency. In the first 100 days, I will do an internal cleansing of the inept, corrupt, and undisciplined government officials and employees.
Piniprepare ko na yung plano ko sa pagpatayo ng mega prison dahil gusto ko makita sa kulungan ang mga kawatan dyan sa gobyerno.
For the presidential bets, life will go on if election results don't go their way. Senator Manny Pacquiao will push through with his retirement, while Labor leader Leody de Guzman says he will make his way back to the streets fighting for labor rights. Dr. Jose Montemayor, on the other hand, is confident he'd win the race.
Hindi ko iniisip yun. Alam mo, board top notcher ako lahat. 7,000 ang kalaban ko. No? Hindi ako nag-isip na mababa lang ako. Just passing. No? I am a board top notcher in everything that I do.
The debate capped off with the candidates committing to fair, honest, and peaceful elections. Chrissy Di Matulak, CNN Philippines.
Bongbong Marcos was the lone candidate who did not show up at the CNN Philippines presidential debate on Sunday. His spokesman, Vic Rodriguez, insists his absence was because of a conflict in schedule. Rodriguez says Marcos's trip to Pangasinan has been set since January 11th, but was delayed amid the surge in cases. Marcos visited around 20 towns and cities in the vote-rich province over the weekend.
we have been trying to keep up with the time. But medyo nalilate kami with our commitments because as you can see, people are really going out para salubungin si presidential candidate Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr.
Marcos's attendance in the succeeding debates is still up in the air. The frequent debate skipper said he prefers interviews where he can explain his platform better. Well, the pandemic has changed so many things in our lives, among them the strategic mindset of our next leaders to rise from this health crisis. Last night, CNN Philippines presidential debate revealed the pandemic recovery plan of 9 presidential hopefuls. Our Paulo Barcelon tells us more.
Where were you rather in the days, weeks, and months that followed after the president placed Luzon under ECQ? And
it may sound like a harmless question, but responses revealed how much 9 presidential candidates in the CNN Philippines presidential debate knew about the pandemic and how best to pull the country out of the crisis. Some candidates looked back at how these events unfolded.
Nung mga panahong yon, nasa bahay, nanonood ng telebisyon at nakita ko yung mga policy ng gobyerno na ipapatupad. Nalulungkot ako dahil ang unang-unang ginawa ng Pangulong Duterte ay parang binaliwala yung COVID.
Ako naman nagkaroon ng panahon na magnilay-nilay kung ano ang pwede natin gawin at paano makikita kung ano na ang lapit ko sa kalikasan ay medyo imagine natin yan. Kung sakali ka ako magno-normal, palagay ko agrikultura. Ang una nating itutulak kasi kailangan ng pagkain.
Kaya po, itong pandemya, kapag tayo ay hindi sumunod sa ating nagtagalikha, talagang tuloy-tuloy po itong pandemya.
For others, all current and former officials in government unloaded their plans on how Filipinos can pick themselves up from the pandemic.
Nasa Senado po ako at natatandaan ko, tinatanong namin yung mga health officials dahil merong Wuhan couple nagbiyahe galing Cebu, papunta Dumaguete, bumalik na Manila. Tinanong namin, kailan may contact tracing? Ilan na yung na-contact tracing nyo sa mga co-passengers? Ang sagot sa amin, 17%.
In Santa Ana Hospital, we created the first infectious disease control center. On the first week, about 16 beds, and in a month time, about 60 beds available. Kaya naging center of COVID patient ang Santa Ana Hospital.
I was still with DFA at ang binigyan tugon po yung yung pagre-repatriate ng ating mga OFWs na nanggagaling sa Middle East and sa Europe at malaki siyang gawain dahil it took maybe something like not maybe mga 400,000 ang mga na repatriate.
Tayo po unang lumabas, hindi po tayo nagtago. Una po tayong lumabas at namigay ng face mask, face shield, at saka PPEs.
A candidate even offers his life to save others.
Ang mismong buhay namin, hindi lang bilang doktor, kundi bilang isang mamamayang Pilipino, isang Pilipino na nagmamahal sa ating bayang Pilipinas. Yan po, buhay, hindi gamit.
But for the only woman who attended this debate, it was a litany of accomplishments, too long to list in 90 seconds.
Naglagay po tayo ng mga dormitories. Wala na pong trabaho yung mga toda natin. Naglagay po tayo ng community marts. Nag-launch po tayo ng Bayanihan Eskwela nung wala ng paaralan. Mayroon tayong mga community learning hubs. Nag-launch po tayo ng Bayanihan Hanap Buhay para dun sa mga nawalan ng trabaho. Meron po tayong Vaccine Express, meron tayong Swab Cab, meron po tayong Bayanihan e-Consulta.
Why are discussions about the pandemic important in debates? The answer may be debatable, but one thing is for sure. The next set of leaders we will elect should lead the country out of one of the biggest health crises the world has ever faced. Paulo Barcelon, CNN Philippines.
Presidential candidate Bongbong Marcos and his running mate Sara Duterte are leading in the latest voter preference survey by the Octa Research Group. The study, which was conducted from February 12 to 17, showed 55% of voters want Marcos to become the country's next president. He has a wide lead over Vice President Leni Robredo, who is at second place with 15%. Close behind, Manila Mayor Isko Moreno, 11%, Manny Pacquiao, 10%, Ping Lacson, 3%, while the other candidates got a score of 0. For Marcos's team, Octa's survey shows that his direct way of communicating with people on the ground is working. Lacson says he is unbothered by the survey and that the real test will be on election day itself. He also brought up Marcos's absence in the CNN Philippines debate.
Kung papaniwalaan natin yung resulta ng mga survey, lahat kami nakatayo doon kagabi, talo. Yung wala doon ang panalo.
Over to the vice presidential survey, Duterte got a score of 43%, while the second placer, Senate President Tito Soto, got 33%. Following behind, Kiko Pangilinan, Doc Willie Ong, Lito Atienza, and Carlos Serapio, while other candidates got a score of 0. Octa conducted the survey through the face-to-face interviews with 1,200 respondents. It has a 3% error margin. Coming up, a day before Metro Manila shifts to the lowest alert level, the health department sees a record low in new COVID-19 cases. And while peace talks are underway between Russia and Ukraine, how are efforts to bring Filipinos out of harm's way in the Eastern European country? We find out after the break. Welcome back to Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. The country logs fewer than 1,000 new cases for the first time this year. The health department reported 951 fresh cases today, the lowest since the surge began in December 2021. Total tally is at over 3.6 million, with only 52,179 active cases. 5 laboratories did not submit data. The drop in new cases comes just a day before the National Capital Region downgrades to the lowest alert level. What again can we expect under Alert Level 1? Here's Trisha Terada with that report.
With the capital region's shift to Alert Level 1, establishments and workplaces and public transportation may now return to their full operation. Although flexible and work-from-home setup may still be in place. 100% seating capacity is now allowed in all kinds of public transportation, while acrylic and plastic dividers are no longer required.
Ang number coding scheme po na kasalukuyang ini-implement po natin ay mananatili. Ito po ay Monday hanggang Friday, 5 to 8 p.m. Pero pinag-aaralan na po natin yung posibilidad na expand po yan sa 7 to 9 a.m.
However, proof of full vaccination will be required for individuals 18 years old and above before participating in mass gatherings and indoor activities. Children ages 17 and below will not be required to present a proof of vaccination status.
Kailangan po, meron din ho tayong angking pagdedesisyon na pag nakita natin na maramihan ng tao, mga mass gatherings, tayo na po ang mag-self-regulate. Kung sa tingin natin hindi natin mapapatupad ng gusto ang ating pag-mask o yung physical distance na kailangan, tayo po ay pumunta lang dun sa mga talagang kailangan natin puntahan.
Contact tracing efforts such as the health declaration forms and digital contact tracing apps like staysafe.ph are now only optional. Asymptomatic close contacts are required to isolate immediately and will only be tested once symptoms show up. RT-PCR testing will be prioritized for healthcare workers, senior citizens, and persons with comorbidities. Establishments are also no longer required to have isolation facilities. Authorities say the government can tighten restriction if and when a new variant that possesses serious danger comes or when hospitals get filled up quickly.
Hindi pa ho tapos ang pandemya. hindi pa rin po tayo dumarating dun sa sinasabi nating endemic state. Na andito po ngayon tayo sa level ng ating sitwasyon kung saan we are transitioning dito po sa gusto nating marating na new normal.
Makikita po natin dun sa guidelines na yan na ang number one rule po ay hindi dapat tanggalin ang mask. No? Constant po yan. Make sure na lagi tayong nakamask.
Malacanang says the current de-escalation of alert level in several areas is poised to drum up 9.4 billion pesos worth in economic activity per week and will lead to 170,000 jobs in the next 3 months. Trisha Terada, CNN Philippines.
In global headlines, a Ukrainian delegation agreeing to peace talks with Russia after days of fighting between their troops. Ukraine demands a, quote, immediate ceasefire and withdrawal of Russian troops during the meeting at the border with Belarus. It says Russian forces have slowed their offensive but are still pushing forward. Russian President Vladimir Putin has ordered his country's nuclear deterrence forces on high alert. Philippine authorities also keeping the guard up as they facilitate the repatriation of Filipinos in Ukraine. Tristan Nadalo has that report.
Efforts to evacuate Filipinos wanting to leave Ukraine continue amid the Russian invasion. Over the weekend, 13 Filipinos from the Eastern European country managed to cross the Poland border via a 5-hour trip. Foreign Affairs Secretary Teddy Boy Locsin Jr. personally welcomed them upon their arrival at the border. Locsin adds that the said embassies are working double time to bring Filipinos to safety.
It was also very emotional kasi alam po nyo yung pagbabagtasin mo talaga yung border, 20 kilometers po yung pila ng mga sasakyan. Yan pong pinapakita nyo, ano na yun, nakakross na po talaga sila.
The 13 Filipinos in Poland need to undergo their RT-PCR test before flying back to Manila. They were also given $200 cash assistance plus psychosocial assistance for possible war shock effect. The DFA adds some Filipinos still prefer not to go home.
Ayaw nila magpa-repatriate. They just want to wait it out and wait and see. So what we're trying to do is to be in constant contact with Filipinos who choose to stay and at least know where they are, and also at the same time give them assistance or care packages.
Ukrainian ambassador to the Philippines and Malaysia, Alexander Nechitailo, says the situation in Ukraine is fluid.
The dynamics on the field is changing. The morale of our troops is very high. The Russian troops been demoralized. There is a major diplomatic effort on the way now. Yesterday, our President Zelensky spoke to President Lukashenko from Belarus, and we expect the negotiation to take place between Ukraine and Russia on the border between Ukraine and Belarus in the coming hours this morning. So we believe these few hours will be decisive in which direction the events will develop further.
The Ukrainian ambassador urges Filipinos to join the call to make Russia accountable for the crisis.
What is happening now in Ukraine is not about Ukraine or Russia anymore. Nobody can stay indifferent. Nobody can say, it's fights in Europe, we don't care about that. Everybody have to care because this is the cause for the world peace. And I believe Filipinos and all other free-loving nations have to speak up.
Ukraine has filed a complaint against Russia at The Hague over its actions and following the orders of leader Vladimir Putin to place Russia's nuclear deterrent forces on high alert. Tristan Nodalo, CNN Philippines.
It was the vice presidential candidates who first stood on the CNN Philippines debate stage. How can they fight corruption? Amor Santos tells us what some of their plans are.
The report. Senator Kiko Pangilinan vows he will ensure justice is served in the Farmally controversy if he's elected vice president. He says he will not interfere with the judiciary and will push for reforms and additional funding for the courts.
Yan ang hirap sa ating sistema ng katarungan, mabagal. Kaya dapat din mamodernisa ang ating justice system.
According to the partial report of the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee, the panel recommends charges against President Rodrigo Duterte over the allegedly anomalous supply deals with Farmally Pharmaceutical Corporation. After the debate, Senate President Tito Soto tells CNN Philippines he has so far not seen any evidence pinning down the chief executive.
Duque and the rest, definitely. The president, I have not read it. In the hearings, it did not come out.
For pro-life advocate Rizalito David, only the renewal of faith and morals can end corruption.
Dahil nagkukulang tayo sa pag-ibig, ibalik natin ang gobyerno kay Kristo.
Economist Manny Lopez calls for a new system.
We have this e-governance system that could address specific loopholes in the public financial system.
On the issue of political dynasties, former Akbayan party list representative Walden Bello appealed to the public not to vote candidates from ruling families. Presidential bet Bongbong Marcos and his running mate Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte.
The South and the North raw will get together to eat up the Philippines. The task is up to our voters. Do not elect these dynastic cliques.
For Dr. Willie Ong, if the country can't ban political dynasties, then draw a line at least.
Baka pwede may gap muna, may isang term para at least hindi gamitin yung resources nung nahalal, tsaka may limit lang yung dami ng kamag-anak na po pwede, siguro 2 o 3.
Amor Santos, CNN Philippines.
While 9 presidential bets were facing off inside the University of Santo Tomas during the CNN Philippines debate, there was another battle among their supporters outside. Paige Javier gives us a look.
Cheers, jeers, and loud music filled the Pitan Street in Manila on Sunday afternoon. It felt like there was a basketball game or boxing match. But there was no sporting event, only people watching the CNN Philippines presidential debate. In particular, supporters of Manny Pacquiao, Leni Robredo, and Isko Moreno watched on an LED screen along the Pitan Street, set up by a pro-Pacquiao group. Every time their candidate answered, the crowd went wild. But things took a turn when the feed stopped twice while Robredo was answering. Pacquiao supporters could not explain what happened, while some claim it was a technical glitch. But instead of demanding answers, Robredo's kakampinks opted to move away from the pack.
Actually, nakakagulat nga na nangyari yon. Especially, hindi lang naman kami nakikinig, may iba't ibang supporters, di ba? Wala silang sinabi naman, so we really don't know if it's intentional. Gusto lang din namin na mag-keep space para hindi na rin mag-cause ng any further commotion.
Earlier, supporters gathered in the Pitan to cheer for their bets. Police were quick to respond since they already expected the crowds.
Musunod naman sila at kahit na sila ay magkakatabi-tabi at may iba't ibang presidential bets na sinusuportahan sila, sila naman ay hindi nag-aaway.
At the end of the day, it's all about being a good sport for most supporters.
Sa aking pong piniling kandidato at mga supporters, naniniwala po ako na hindi po yan magkakaroon ng gulo, magkakaroon po ng patas, na pagpapaliwanag.
Oriented naman po kami, hindi po kami nagkukos ng anumang gulo, no? At kami po ay nandito para suportahan ng aming mahal na senador, Manny Pacquiao.
Mas magandang walang away. Kasi tayo naman bilang supporter, ang amin lang gumawa ng tama at mabuti. Pare-pares lang tayong mga tao.
And just like in sports, the cheers, the heckling, the noise and the chants are all part of the spectacle. Paige Javier, CNN Philippines.
Netizens had plenty to say about the candidates' platforms and views. As discussed in yesterday's CNN Philippines presidential debate, a number of netizens wondered about Manila Mayor Isko Moreno's stance on the Ukraine-Russia conflict, criticizing the candidate for choosing to be neutral in a time of moral crisis. Some presidential bet's views on certain issues received praises, with some applauding their support for same-sex civil unions. But several netizens also expressing that those running should go further and vow to legalize same-sex marriage. The absence of one candidate became the talk of netizens, with this individual emphasizing admiration for Faisal Mangundato for having the courage to show up. 9 of the 10 presidential hopefuls were present at the debate. Former Senator Bongbong Marcos was not able to attend as he chose to campaign in Pangasinan. Did you miss the CNN Philippines presidential and vice presidential debates? Catch the replays of the presidential debate tonight at 10 o'clock, Saturday at 10 a.m., and Sunday at 7 p.m. The replay of the vice presidential debate will be on Saturday, 7 p.m. Still on Newsnight, find out the winners of this year's Screen Actors Guild Awards, and the top 50 list for the Miss Universe Philippines is out. Some veteran beauty queens are in the running. Find out who they are after this break. Welcome back to CNN Philippines. A bitter end to the first assignment of Gilas for the year. The national men's basketball team closed out this month's window of the FIBA World Cup qualifiers last night with a loss to New Zealand, 88-63. The disappointing home court defeat led some fans at the Araneta Coliseum to chant, "We want Baldwin," referring to former head coach Tab Baldwin, who left the team last month. Current coach Chot Reyes tells CNN Philippines Sports Desk he is not paying mind to the criticism.
Did not hear it last night, to be very honest.
Okay.
But my family, people already told me about it, and just very honestly, I expected it. I came into this job. I accepted this job with my eyes wide open. I knew I was going to get widely bashed and criticized and hated upon, and I still took it nonetheless, because that's never going to get in the way of my service to my country.
Gilas is already through to the 2023 World Cup regardless of the results, since the Philippines is one of the host countries. Now, from the hardcourt to the pageant stage, the top 50 list for Miss Universe Philippines is out. Among the candidates are experienced beauty queens, with the likes of Miss World 2019 top 12 finalist Michelle D, Miss Earth 2018 finalist Celeste Cortez, third runner-up of Miss Universe Philippines 2020, Pauline Amelinx, and fifth runner-up of the 2019 Reina Hispano-Americana, Maria Catrina Legado. You can view the full list of candidates on cnnphilippines.com. Last year, only the top 30 delegates competed on finals night. The 2022 Miss Universe Philippines coronation is set for April 20. Now let's take a look at some of the big winners at this year's Screen Actors Guild Awards. Record-breaking Netflix hit Squid Game bagged major trophies. Jung Ho-yeon, who made her acting debut on the show, took outstanding performance by a female actor in a drama series. The K-drama also won 3 of its 4 nominations and is the first non-English series to ever be nominated for a SAG award. As for movies, Coda also made breakthrough wins, nabbing both categories it was nominated for. It is the only SAG award film ensemble winner with several deaf characters actually portrayed by deaf actors. And that is it for now. Join me again on News.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pia Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.